Hello. I don't expect anyone to get anything out of the rest of this video except me. It's not a tutorial on how to do sound editing or use audio filters in OBS or anything like that. It's just the part of the journey that I went through, spending dozens of hours over the course of several days trying to learn how to get my audio to sound right. So again, mainly this is for me, for future reference, to come back and see what a struggle it was at the beginning. But anyway, just wanted to put that out there. If you do watch, I hope you enjoy. Okay, I've been playing with my audio quite a bit, and the first thing that let me turn off all of these. The first thing that I did was I turned on the noise gate. And the reason that I did that is because there are background noises, even if I can't hear them. Like the fan on my computer, if you have really good speakers or really good headphones, or you're listening to this at a high volume, you might be able to hear a very low background noise when I quit talking. Especially if other things were on, like if the air conditioner was running, which is just right around the corner over here outside the door, and right through this wall is our laundry room. And so you might be able to hear the laundry running, that sort of thing, or even the dishwasher, which is a little farther away, but it's possible that those sounds might encroach. So the first thing I did was turn on a noise gate, and hopefully you will be able to notice the difference when I turn that on. Okay, now I did not use the default features here because when the default here was, I believe, minus 32 decibels on the close threshold. The open threshold, I found out, is the amount of decibels required for the noise gate to open and allow sound to come through, which is the sound of me speaking. And I don't know where I need to set that. I know if I set it too low, like minus 50 or something like that, that it might come on for every little tap or click or the fan running on the computer or the air conditioner. So I want the open threshold. I left that at the default because it seems to be working. But I changed the close threshold to first to minus 40. But even then, I felt like when I trail off at the end of a sentence, that sometimes the noise gate would close before I was done talking. So I lowered that so it won't close until I get down to minus 50. That way, when I trail off, that there's still going to be the sound there. And that seems to be working right now. I did not mess with the attack time because 25 milliseconds seems like a really small amount of time. 100 milliseconds would be a tenth of a second. And so 25 milliseconds is a quarter of that. So 1/40th of a second, if I'm doing the math right. And I think 1/40th of a second should be enough to catch whatever sound I've just said. I think even if I, start my sentence with a consonant or certainly with a vowel, that there'll be it'll be long enough. That sound will have a duration longer than 25 milliseconds, so it would show up. But the whole time in release time, one of those is how long the gate stays open after my voice quits. And I don't know which one it is, so I didn't mess with either one of those. I want there to be a little bit of a space at the end. I don't know how long, for when I pause or when there's a space between words, rather than the gate closing immediately and then having to reopen again. Okay, now the second thing I did was added the Reaper compression add-on, and I'm going to turn that on now to see if there's any difference. When I opened the plugin interface here, I didn't understand all of these. I lowered this to 2.1 and I didn't notice a difference from, this is minus 2.1. I didn't notice a difference from 0. I didn't notice a difference from minus 0.5. I did change the ratio from 1:1 to 3:1. So because I believe that I want some space there, I want my highest, my loudest, part of my voice to be a little bit louder than the quieter part of my voice. And so I think 3 is probably a good range. 1 was the default, and I'm pretty sure I don't want it to be all at about the same volume, but I might be doing it the opposite. It might be if I change it to 10, then it would be all the same volume. But right now I'm seeing the volume go up and down on the little meter there, so I think it's doing its job. And I have clicked the auto makeup so that it should bring me back up to a certain point, but I don't know how. Because right now it looks like it's only going up to minus 12 or so. unless I speak really loudly, and then it's going up to -6 or so. But I don't normally speak that loudly into the microphone. But if I change this to 0, it doesn't look like it's made much of a difference. It's still going up to about -12. So I don't know what the compression does, and I'm considering taking it off. But I'm going to leave it on because everybody says I need it. Okay, and the last thing that I did was I turned on the Reaper equalizer, which is shown here. Now, I added this high pass down at the bottom, and that was to cut off any sounds that are lower than my voice. So when I uncheck this enabled box, you should be able to tell a difference, because now there's going to be should be a lower, more resonant frequencies at the bottom end that I don't necessarily need for my voice, because some of that's going to be resonance from the room, or the lower end of my voice may be reverberating off of the monitors here, or my glass desktop, that sort of thing. And the human voice really doesn't produce any sounds below, I want to say 20 to 50 hertz. So I had set this down to 70, but I think I'm going to go ahead and change it to 60, which might change how you hear it. I can't hear this live. I'm going to have to hear this later. And that's been one thing that was a struggle for me. I just recorded about 10 separate videos as I changed each one of these. So I would talk for a minute or so as I talked about each thing, and then I would make a change, and I would keep talking, and then I would stop the video. Then I would listen to the video to see what the change was. So I do want some lower resonance in my voice, but I don't know exactly how low, so I'm probably going to have to play with this. But I also know that I don't need to boost the bass in my voice, because this microphone seems like it's picking up a decent amount of bass. Okay, now over here on the right, this number 5 band, I added a low pass frequency. Now that's supposed to cut off everything on the high end, the very high stuff, any hisses or whines that might be produced by machinery in the background, like the fan on my computer, or maybe the hissing in my voice when I use an S sound. Although the sibilance, which is the S sounds, usually take place here in the 7,000 to 8,000 range, I think, which is going to be this number 4. So I set this at about 7,800, it looks like. And it looks like it's removing a little bit, but maybe I want to remove a little bit more there so that the hisses on my S's won't be quite as pronounced. Although I don't think mine are as pronounced as many people. It still can be irritating. Also, my microphone has a built-in pop filter, which should be helping with both my P's and B's, and it should also be helping with my S's just a little bit, I think. But anyway, that's what that is for. And I don't know what else I need to change. I feel like I need to add a little bit of a boost here someplace. Maybe take out something around 300 hertz, drop this down. I feel like I need to add another band about right there and drop out a little bit of the lower, or the lower mid-range, I think is what I want to call that. I've got my 2 at my low range. I think if you'll see this peak right here, a lot of my voice peaks right here around that 2. So I wanted that to be at least normal. And then, but here someplace I think is where some of the muddiness comes from. And I think I want to set that at around 300 hertz. So let's set that at 300. And then I want to drop this down a little bit. But that's taking a big plunge. I want to narrow this to about 0.5 and then make a plunge. Even that might be too wide. What about 0.2? And that should take out, I moved it sideways by accident. Whoops. It should be taking out a little bit of what some people refer to as muddiness. But then here, you'll see one of the weaker places in my voice is around the 1,000 kilohertz range. So I think it might add some brightness to my voice to pull that up. So I'm going to go to number 3, change that to about 1,000. And then I'm going to add a little bit of a boost there to see if that makes a difference. But I also want this to be relatively narrow because I don't want to change too much, and I don't know how much I need to change here, so I have to stop the video and make a listen. Did I really say make a listen at the end of that video? I think I did. I meant listen to it. Okay. That did bring up a little brightness in my voice there when I added the 3rd band, which was the last thing at the end of the previous section, but I think I think it might need to be narrower here. So I'm going to do 0.5, and then I'm going to raise this to 2.5 and see if that makes a difference. Because again, what I'm trying to do there in the middle is attack the higher range of my voice, which I know I have. And sometimes I even speak a little higher, especially if I'm excited or frustrated or no, don't do that. Then it's more in that range. But also even when I'm speaking normally and the peaks in my voice are down around between 1 and 300 hertz, somewhere up about 1,000 hertz or 1K, there's that, as you can see on the little wiggly line chart, some of my voice is still in that range. And I felt like that part wasn't loud enough. So hopefully this helps a little bit. I did notice that it felt like some of the bass had gone out of my voice, and I don't know if that's because of this high pass down here where I have completely cut off the lower end and I didn't go low enough. So I'm going to change that to 50. And then on the number 2, I'm going to bump that up a little higher. I'm going to narrow this to 0.7, and then I'm going to bump this to 1.5 and see if that makes a difference. Because again, I do want to emphasize the lower end of my voice a little bit, not only because I think it sounds good, but because that's the part of my voice that, at least according to this equalizer chart, you're seeing the yellow line hopping up and down here. That looks like that's the strongest, most resonant part of my voice. And so it makes sense to emphasize that. Most of my voice seems to live there on the lower end. Again, I don't have the deepest voice in the world. I'm not a bass. I'm at best on the low end, I'm a baritone. Also ranging into the tenor range, I guess is what you'd call it. I don't know if those singing terms apply to the spoken voice, but I do know that I don't have the lowest male voice in the world, but I also don't have the highest male voice in the world. So anyway, that's what the 2 is for. I want to emphasize what looks like the strongest part of my voice. And the reason that I dropped out on the number, is that a 6? They're out of order, which is going to be confusing. But the reason I put a little notch there on number 6, which I think I said, was because it felt like there was some muddiness. My voice there wasn't the clarity that I was hoping for in my voice. And it felt like some of it came from that whole wide range of the low end. Everything from the mid down was even. So I wanted to cut a little bit of that out, just leave the most resonant part, the warmer, deeper part, but then cut out the muddy part, which I think is what the number 6 does. I've just noticed that the lines have disappeared. There were a bunch of lines here earlier. Where did they all go? Or did I click something that made all those lines disappear? There were a bunch of horizontal, show grid. When did I unclick that? Okay, that was throwing me off right in the middle of my sentence, and I apologize for interrupting myself. But yeah, the show grid was gone. What does show phase do? Oh, I don't know what that does, so I'm going to disappear that. Okay, so the grid is important. So right there around 300 was the upper end of the lower range, or the lower end of the middle range. And that, I think, is where some of the muddiness was coming from. Now, the reason that I added number 3 and raised it a little bit is because that looked like the weakest part of my voice. And I might actually want to move that over and then widen it a little bit. I'm considering that right now it's right on the 1K or 1,000 hertz line, and it's a relatively narrow band that I've peaked up. I'm considering moving it to maybe 1,100 and then widening the band a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and do that as I'm talking to see what difference that makes, if any. And then I'm going to widen the band to 80. So it should boost a little bit more there in that range. In fact, now looking at it, it makes me want to maybe take that boost up into around 1,400 or so. So let's do that. I'm going to continue talking while I'm doing this, and I've just moved that over to 1,400 to see what it sounds like. So now I have to stop the recording so I can listen to this. Okay, well, I've listened to this a couple of different times, and on both my headphones, which are here, hidden behind the microphone, and also on the PC speakers. I'm still not completely satisfied with this, but I also don't know what else I can do to it. I don't know if there's a better way to change this high pass filter on the low end. I still think I need to raise this, to boost this bass just a little bit. But again, I don't know how much or whether I should widen or narrow this band. It's already boosted 1.5. So it looks like my peak or the strongest part of my voice, it actually might be a little higher than 100. So I'm going to move that over to where it looks like the peak of my voice is about right there. And okay, so I'm going to go ahead and round that off to 120. And then hopefully, I don't know if I should make this band wider. Should I make this band 1.0? Let's just do that. And that looks like there's a nice round peak there that kind of continues in a tangent from the low pass or the high pass filter below it. I don't think I want to boost any more than 1.5 just because this microphone seems like it picks up the bass fairly well, or the lower register. I don't know about the number 6 either. It might have clarified a little bit, but on the other hand, I feel like it might have taken out some of the power because, again, it looks like some of the range, some of my voice is right there, and maybe I need to use that. So I'm going to change this to -2, and I'm going to change that 300 to 400. I'm going to move it over there and see if that makes any difference. This is going to be the last that I play with this today. I just wanted to finish off the video with some final touches. I did feel, it did seem to me when I listened to the last section of video that this 3 helped, but I think I might have moved it over too far. So I'm going to move it back to 1300, and I'm going to narrow this band to 0.5, and hopefully that little boost will help there. Now, the reason I added number 4 was for the sibilance, because when it looks like that's a pretty okay. Did you see that? Depending on what kind of S sound I made, some of it was over here around 8,000 or 7,000. And then I changed it, and that went over there closer to 10 or 11,000. So I think I have this set at 8,000 right now, but I think I need to move this down to 7,000. And hopefully that will still continue to take out some of the sibilance of my voice, but it doesn't look like it's taking out a lot. That might be because this band is too narrow. So I'm going to go ahead and switch that to 0.5. But that takes out a bunch of this high end here because it's so close to my high end filter, or my low pass filter, which cuts off the high end. So I'm going to move that even further over, I think, like so. I'm going to narrow that to, I don't need that curve to be quite so gradual. So I don't know if that's a good idea. That changed the curve a lot. Okay. So what do I need? I need to go somewhere in between those two. I think that's too much of a curve. Or if it's going to be that sharp of a curve, then I can move this back to 12,000, or maybe even 11,000, like so. And maybe that will be what I need. But anyway, that's the end of this video for today. I'm going to put these 3 sections together, and hopefully my voice will sound natural and as well as pleasant, which it normally sounds pleasant to me, as with many people. I do like to hear myself talk. And one of the best ways to do that, by the way, is to record yourself on video and then watch it again later. So anyway, thank you for watching if you made it this far. Okay, just one last addition to this. I have read a little bit more about the Reaper compressor, and hopefully I think I understand this now. I was mistaken about a couple of things when I finally found a video that explained it really well. But I was mistaken about the threshold, and I was mistaken about the ratio. The threshold is actually the level at which you want the compressor to take effect. Apparently everything below a certain amount, it does not take effect. So if I was speaking very loudly, those sounds, anything that goes over whatever the threshold I have, is going to be compressed. So at 0, it's not doing anything, apparently. And let's see, can I click off the auto makeup? I think everything here is, oh no. Okay, now everything is at the original settings. It was at 1, and it was at 0, right around here someplace. So what I want to do is take any sound that goes above a certain level. I want to take that down, and then with the auto makeup, we're going to raise everything up. The ratio I was wrong about because I thought it was the ratio between how your loudest sound and your lowest sound after the compressor was applied, but that's not the case. So I was completely mistaken about the ratio, and I wanted there to be a 3 or 4 to 1 ratio because I wanted there to be difference between my loudest sound and my quietest sound. But instead, that's not what it is at all. The ratio is how much reduction there is for every decibel that you go over the threshold. So I'm going to lower the threshold to about the level that you're seeing here, which is about 26 or so. And then I'm going to change the ratio so that anything that goes above that level is reduced by that ratio. So if I go above this level that I've set here, which I just have a couple of times, you can see the green bars going up and down here. So if I go 1 decibel above that, if I go 2 decibels above that, and this ratio is set to 2.0, then for every 2 decibels I go above, it's going to reduce it by 1. And it's not going to affect the lower sounds at all. It's the makeup gain that's going to bring the whole thing up to the normal level. So that's going to be what increases the lower sounds. So I don't know. Okay, now see, I think that red, the red there at the top of this second, you see there are 3 places here that are showing the levels of my voice. When I had this set at 0, you're never going to see any red because there's no compression being applied. Now, if I drag this down here to minus 0.9, there's no red. If I drag it down here to minus 8, are we going to see any red? Hey, no red. Okay. Drag it down. Okay, I thought I saw just, right there, about 19. I saw a little red. Okay, so let's take it to 23, and now you're seeing red on almost all the high points of my voice. Okay, so I'm going to just round this number off at 25 because I like even numbers. And so we're seeing a little bit of red at the loudest, punchiest parts of my voice. And we're going to take the ratio to, what should we take the ratio to? Either 2 or 3. I've been told that 2 is a gentle compression, 2, 3, 4. But when you get to like 10, then that's a very aggressive compression. So I want it to be, I'm going to say, can we go 2.5? That's fairly normal, I think. And then I'm going to click Auto Makeup, which should increase the overall volume of everything back up to the normal level. So now I'm going to stop this and listen to it. And hopefully that has solved my compression problems. And then we'll see what's happening. And now I'm going to take a look at the, whatever this is called, the equalizer, and see this is the levels that are being recorded, and I think I got that set about the way that I want it to. So hopefully this has solved everything. This has been a long and complicated journey, and I've spent most of the day on it, aside from the times where I actually had things that I had to do. So if you've watched this video, wow, good for you. But mainly this was for me to look back upon at some point and see that the process that I went through to learn this stuff. I assume that at some point in the future, I will be an expert at all of this, and I'll think, wow, he didn't know anything back then. So anyway, that's it. Okay, so you've watched, if you've made it this far, my journey, or part of my journey of trying to figure out audio filters in OBS and understanding what some of the terms mean. But please don't take anything I said in here as gospel. I am not an audio engineer. I've just learned some of these things very recently, and it's very possible I learned some of them incorrectly. So I just recorded this for future reference, and I am going to continue to try to learn some of this and try to continue to improve my audio. But if you did watch it, well, thank you, and hopefully you got something out of it.